Our lessons. An approach to disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction from consultations with people with disabilities in the Asia and Pacific regions. Can you tell me about the kinds of disasters which have affected your community, country or region in the past? Alma Kawambu, Papua New Guinea.
So in Western Britain, we had a volcanic eruption. So we live like an hour away from the volcano. So when we have an earthquake or when there's, when the volcano starts puffing out some dust, that's when we have to move. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. So I'm always the first kid in the car. My dad makes sure that I'm in the car first, and then everyone else has to find their own way in, and off we go.
Caroline Dagani, Philippines.
In my experience, of course, we have a lot of disasters here in the Philippines. Again, for example, we have a lot of typhoons going on in the Philippines, and of course, I'm not aware about that because I can't hear anything on the news. And so I would still go out, when we're, and if I plan to go out on a particular day, and my niece would say, no, you can't go out because there's an ongoing typhoon, and I was just reading the news that an earthquake has happened, and not until they publish it, like on social media, that I'm aware that such disaster has happened. There would be, of course, the government would send out this SMS announcements about particular disasters, but those messages are in Filipino, and I could not understand Filipino. And so basically, whether it's in television or on radio or in whatever form, of course we get paranoid because we are not aware. We are the last to know about what's going on.
Carmen Waso, Papua New Guinea.
There was a prediction from the National Weather team in country that there was a tsunami. There were going to be a tsunami hit coming towards to Mosby. So I was in the house, and people were running to and from, and some even took buses and get on the trucks, and they were driving up the mountain to Sogeri, and it really had a negative impact on myself. I was thinking to myself, how would I survive if everyone think of themselves and they ran away, if they leave me behind, because I was not getting information correctly. As a blind person, I might come out of the house and run in opposite direction instead of running to seek refuge. So there's some of the challenges that as responsible government or responsible agency that is taking care of managing the disaster and bringing out information, disseminating information out to citizens to be aware. We need to bring information in an accessible and inclusive way that everyone needs to absorb that information and be alert when the disaster strikes, so including persons with disability.
Bishwamitra, Bhitrakoti, Nepal.
So 2 years back, there was a flood in my community, and my home was taken away by the flood. As being a deaf person, I was unknown about the problem. I was unknown about what to do in those situations. I was not being informed about any kind of information given by the government on flooding the possibility on that part.
Prakriti, Bhatterai, Nepal.
In 2015, there were one big earthquake in Nepal. So that time, most of all Nepalese affects with earthquake. So that time I spend most of time out of the house. So it's feel difficult for me. And I worried that when this will stop.
Vashkar, Bhattacharjee, Bangladesh.
One of my terrible experience I had in 2005, there was a mock drill organized by some international organization in my organization about the earthquake. You know, earthquake is one of the frequent things happen in Bangladesh. So in that mock drill, we were a few persons with disabilities are working in fourth floor of the building. Many of them are visually impaired with me. So we were excluded from the mock drill. So after 1 hour of mock drill, there was a real earthquake was happening. And we people with disabilities who are working here, we didn't know what we need to do. All the people, all the colleagues from our building has go out and they do whatever they need to do. But we didn't know that what we can do. We are running here and there. We became very afraid, and that was a very terrible experience I had.
Anna Varegali, Vanuatu.
As a person with disability, during the DC Harol, to me it was a big challenge because I have never faced Category 5 cyclone, and this was my first time, and yeah, it was a challenge to me because we have lost our house. It was blown away by the wind. So after the cyclone, we have to slowly rebuild back our home and replant back our foods at the garden.
Jennifer Mendoza, Philippines.
Because people with disabilities like me, in this community where I live in, there are a lot of people with disabilities, physical disabilities, visual disabilities, and it's quite noticeable during flooding. We're more vulnerable to disease, we're more vulnerable to accidents, and it's really difficult for us to go about our activities of daily living.
Joshua Jack, Vanuatu.
Yeah, we was living at night with my parents, and it happens that cyclone bomb strike at once, and people were running around. I was so afraid during the time, and during the time I have facing the challenge of being escaped from the house. I was so afraid of the cyclone because it is too strong. Like that was Category 5, yeah. And through the support of my parents, they had to help me and support me to other house that was safe during the times.
Manoka Ego, Papua New Guinea.
The water was beginning to reach, it just reached our house as well, and it was rising to the barrels where the post ends. And my mom was telling me to pack some of my belongings so that we can go to a higher ground. And I said, Mom, I can't, because you see, how will I can't move out anywhere. And it also affected our drinking water, which was a boring that comes from the ground, because everywhere was flood. So people who could manage were traveling in the dinghy to the shops and to reach the other houses as well. For me, it was so difficult, and for others like me, we were kept in our houses still.
What do you think would be the most important change which would result in more people with disabilities knowing about disaster preparedness and being ready if a disaster hits?
So for person with disabilities, I think the central government, for the natural calamities like earthquake or other calamities, so there should be enough information, communication going on. So information should be there, which is accessible. Like I was informed about the SMS system, that phone alert system developed by the government. Such kind of initiation should be taken. There's new technologies that could be used, and that should be accessible for deaf people as well. So I would focus on communication accessibility on the information system. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I think there should be a data of persons with disabilities, so who are affected by the calamities or those kind of disasters. And also I would also think of some kind of support system for persons with disabilities. Like for deaf people, we need an interpreter service. For blind people, maybe they need braille information and support, assistant support. That will be better. And also I would think of some kind of science to be developed so that people are aware of that some kind of calamities or disasters.
It would be better if information and all the informations or all the records are given to the person with disabilities.
Unfortunately, people with disabilities always in a not in a decision making forum. That's why we have no voice in the decision making. But slowly we find at least people with disabilities are able to join in some kind of mock drill and sometimes of issues. One of the biggest challenges is that people with disabilities are not able to join in a decision making forum and in different layer of the disaster management. Unfortunately, in our country, people with disabilities are using as a token, like so-called participation are there. That is only based on paper, not really effectively. We are not finding any expert who are contributing in disaster management. During disaster or after post disaster, they may get some relief, they may get some rehabilitation service, but we want to see they are not only a recipient, they will be a contributor also, because they know better than anyone what they need, how they can contribute for their community. They know the people with disabilities where they are living. So this is very important. We want to see many people with disabilities are coming forward and treated as an expert.
The recommendations from this consultation will be used to ensure that people with disabilities are not left behind in disaster risk reduction activities.